Hello again and welcome to episode 6 of From the Be-All End, your Burnley FC podcast. I'm Simon Evans and with me as always are Chris Bowden, Andrew Greaves and Paul Woodhouse. But there's no Justin Connolly this week. He's away in Europe on a top secret scouting mission. No more goalkeepers or centre-halves, please, Justin. Bring us back some duty-free and a big number 9. But we do have a European signing of our own to announce this week. Well, let's say a loan deal for this week. I'm not sure, maybe a loan deal with an option at some stage. Joining us live from Liège, Belgium, the standard himself when it comes to transfer news involving Belgian league players, and one of the most popular followers on Twitter and YouTube for Burnley fans, Sacha Tavolieri. Welcome, Sacha. Welcome to From the Be-All End.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Simon. Hello, everyone.
Good. Well, I hope you enjoy your short, brief loan spell with us here. And we're going to take full advantage of it by picking your brains about everything that Burnley are up to in the transfer market that you know about, whether it be Belgium or France or other European deals they're looking to do. So let's get underway with that. Sacha, what as far as you can see, are Burnley's top priorities in the market at the moment?
What I can tell you is that there will be a lot of people attacking position in next weeks. That's sure. What's going on right now into Burnley is, and what is the main important new target is finding good striker. They are not keen for the moment, so there are some that are going to speak a lot. It's a lot of talks, but not so concrete. I don't know if you know it, but we will maybe speak about the way Burnley is working into the transfer window with all the scouts and their way of working inside the market. But they kept a lot of information, but for the moment they are still reflecting on the good one or the good ones, because they can be both.
The ones that are springing to mind that that we've read about over here, obviously, is the Tresor. That was the player of the season, wasn't he, in Belgium? There's a lot of interest in him from other English sides as well, is there?
No, English side, no. I know that Brighton is one of the contender in England, but they are not so concrete as can be Burnley, because Burnley took directly information with the sports director Dimitri de Conde. They spoke together, so they know a bit how to act when they want to act. And the club of Mike Tresor is used to be really sane in the way of working with all the clubs. So if you ask for a price, they are asking for a price and they will not go lower. But fact is that if you give this price, that the player will be for you. They are not playing a fool's game or poker face, and they are just making laugh of you, and then they go with another squad, like it was the case, for example, of Anderlecht that plays a really bad joke to the ex-club of Vincent. So the situation for the moment is that the player knows that Burnley loves him. This is right, but there are huge interest, and the fact is that I can confirm that what they told me in his entourage is that they really want to get a club where they are playing 100% football, offensive football. And for example, that's why they were talking about the interest of Crystal Palace. It's not so likely, so the interest can be, but it's not likely that he will sign for them. You understand?
Yeah, he looks like he would be a perfect fit for Vincent and Burnley, as you suggest. Yeah, that sort of very direct, very exciting talent by the look of things.
Yes, he's so wonderful, but he's that kind of player that is playing really freely, he's able to make the difference in 1-to-1. He is also that kind of players that are inventing some skills, and I don't believe that Burnley Football Club is used to get that kind of player playing that kind of football. Last year was already a big surprise for a lot of fans, as I understand. So they want to do more, and so they need to get more players with that profile. And the job will be really to get someone who can play that football inside with Manuel Benson, with Anas Zaroury, and where there can be a really combination and a sort of fluidity inside the offensive football game of Vincent Kompany.
Yeah, Sacha, something else I think you touched on was Vranckx as well. Is it the Aster Vranckx from Wolfsburg? I think weirdly, about a week before you tweeted Burnley's interest, I was sat there kind of stroking my chin thinking, oh, hang on a minute, this lad's not had much of a chance at AC. But again, there seems to be now this profile of a Vincent Kompany type player, and Vranckx was that kind of player. Again, we seem to have lots of irons in fires, as we'd say over here. Is there anything there? I mean, you tweeted about Celta Vigo last night, and then again, I think a little bit later. Can you give us any kind of lowdown on Aster Vranckx as well?
I can assure you that if Aster can go to the Premier League playing with Vincent Kompany, he's Belgium, he's international, he will without any doubt go there. But I don't believe that for the moment they are the most pushing, so they are not the most pressing for the moment. To be honest, it's a moment where we in this transfer window, it was really funny because you came into a moment when it was the seducing part of the transfer window, and now it's another part where they are touching you, but they are not going directly to finalize some deals. They go to their priority of Burnley. Everyone knows it was the goalkeeper, so they did it. It will be Trafford, as everyone knows it. But then they are touching, they are speaking, they are making some offers, but not really concrete. They are talking to the players, but they are already, and Vincent Kompany is already really happy with the squad he gets for the moment. So the idea is getting someone who will directly bring something more than what the squad get for the moment. And it's all a reflection about this. And fact is that if we have to talk about Aster Vranckx, we can talk it in a simple way. For the moment, Celta Vigo makes a big pressure, because I know that the sports director is keen of the agent of Aster Vranckx, but I know how they think into the Aster Vranckx entourage. So it's a bit a game to say, okay, there is this opportunity. Would you like to come into? You will be important into the project, but we always wanted to go in the Premier League, so we don't know what to do. This is a bit the situation right now. So I saw the press in Spain that are speaking about advanced talk and something like this today. I had a lot of people from Celta who tell me, why do you don't tweet and something? Because I know the player, I know how they are thinking inside the family. So I'm not buzzing for making buzz. You know what I mean? So it was not my aim to say, okay, yes, of course they are advanced talk, but for the moment, and that's also what we confirm into the entourage of the player to this morning, that there is nothing really concrete of it, because the mind of the player stays for the Premier, so that's a bit the situation. It's quite complex, but that's how the transfer window is doing,
And for the Burnley fans who maybe don't know all these players and see them every week, he's a holding midfielder, really, or a number 8. How would you describe him?
Oh, it's quite strange because he can be a sort of Leandro Paredes. I'm really I'm always starting to compare this player to Leandro Paredes, because he got this ability to make the difference. He has a long ball who is really interesting, but he gets some impacts. He's bestial, So that is really something that can impress and make all the fans of Burnley really happy, because he gets this Premier League type of game, but he's really technical. He's a player you more physical than a Moussa Dembele, but how you play and how he is playing technically, it's a bit this way.
Sounds great. Actually, sounds exactly what we need in the centre of midfield, really. Yeah. Chris, you had another question, I believe.
Yeah, it was just you mentioned at the outset there, Sacha, about sort of Burnley looking to fill these forward positions, and obviously Lyle Foster was one that arrived in January. And do you think? Did you expect him to have much of an impact in the Premier League? Obviously, he was in and out in the second half of the season, but you think he'll really come good this time?
I truly believe Vincent Kompany is the first disappointed about what happens with the player, So he came for making difference. He came for bringing another type of football, and also to say, okay, we are buying you in the winter because we know we will win the league. And if you are still in Westerlo in summer, we know that we will buy you 1 or 2 times this price. And that was a bit the strategy. Fact is that the player doesn't adapt to the way of thinking football of Burnley in the last 6 months. I think it will need some work, but you really need a QI football to go inside the football of Vincent Kompany. It's revolutionary, and people that are comparing him to Pep Guardiola are true. He's not thinking football as a coach who gets an academical learn of the football. He's at the university, and it's just impressive. And that's maybe sometimes the problem when they get some players. So he was really good with Jonas de Roek at Westerlo with a good team that were playing for him and something like this. But fighting for your number 9 place with Nathan Tella, who is really, really, really strong. And I can tell you that Burnley will 100% try to keep him this season. And they are trying to find a way, but it's really difficult for the moment with Southampton. It was too much, too high for him and too quick. And that's why he didn't really succeed how everyone was waiting for him.
I think with Foster, that I kind of saw flashes. You know what I mean? He's kind of a big lad and he's quick, but I get the same impression as you had there, Sacha, that he just didn't look like he'd adapted, and maybe the same for Michael Obafemi as well. It's like you say, you mentioned IQ. You need an IQ for football, and I think hopefully, I think he was better suited to playing on a last defender in the Premier League as opposed to the Championship, where very few teams committed men towards a halfway line, so he didn't get much of a chance. When we saw him, it kind of, we got flashes. Are you surprised, just on kind of other signings from last year, before we move on to perhaps Burnley's tactics in the market? Are you surprised by how much of a brilliant impact Zaroury and Benson had? Because again, it's without being disrespectful, it's the Pro League in Belgium is it's a step up from that to the Championship. Are you surprised by that? Are you surprised by the impact that they had as quickly as they had it? I know Anas kind of went slightly off after the World Cup due to, travel and things like that, but they were both fantastic. And Manuel, especially towards the end of the season, 4 almost identical goals in 4 games. It was ridiculous. Are you surprised by their impact, or did you always know that they'd come good like that?
He is that kind of player that needs to be picked. You need to say to this player all his truth, all what must happen, and if he don't agree with you, it's good, because then he wants to show you on the pitch how good he is, and that's a bit how Manuel Benson is working with Vincent Kompany, so it was difficult for him to adapt in the first month because it was, he doesn't really understand what the environment, the context, and how it really was, to be a championship player. Because you have to know that this guy was a kid that plays football without shoes. That's how he learned the football, into his academy. So it was the Jean-Marc Guillou Academy. So it came a lot of good players. So on Theo Bongonda, Jason Denayer that plays for Manchester City, and he's from that kind of thought of football. But now, what I can tell you is that he really understands how he is, and he's even better right now that he understands how English football is working. And I can tell you that Vincent Kompany, I can assure you that a Vincent Kompany truly 100% believe in him, and that he has, by all the Belgian players that Burnley has, or new Moroccan but ex-Belgian players, you know what I mean, Anna Zarouri, he is the one who is the most keen to start in the first 11, because he understands a lot of things that other one doesn't understand for so much than him, you understand? And this is really something crazy to see how he now is close to the national team. And he was really far at Antwerp, because never he got a coach who gave him the trust. And Vincent say, okay, do what you have to do, have fun, just try something on the pitch, just be free, just be yourself and show it to people, and play, do what you love. And by understanding, of course, all what's going on into the context, as I told you previously. And that's why Manuel Benson goes like this, It was just amazing to see.
Sacha, there were some reports flying around earlier this morning, that AC Milan had bid 20 million for Benson. Do you know anything about that? You think that's something that he might be tempted by?
Yes, I verified this. This is total fake news. So I can assure you that next season he will be a Burnley Football Club player. There is no worries for all the supporters. And I cannot tell you all what I think, but I can assure you that he is there for this season and maybe for more. And when I will be able to tell things, I will tell. But this is all what I can tell you for the moment.
Excellent. That's really good news. I'm sure
Sacha,
all the Burnley fans listening will be happy about that.
Absolutely. Sacha, is there real disappointment in Belgium that Anas chose Morocco and vice versa, that Al Dakil has linked up with the Belgian national side?
I'm really disappointed.
I think you said to me this time last year, you said he's like a Ben Rama type, and
yes.
Yeah, you can see that similarity.
I told you, I remember I told you we spoke about this on WhatsApp last year. I remember. Yes, of course, he has this ability to make the difference, a bit like a Benson, but less quick, and also he don't get this magic shoot when he goes inside the pitch and he makes his shoot with his other foot. Anas needs to get more time, because you have to know that when Vincent kept him in Charleroi, he was not in the first 11. So he needs to adapt and he needs to understand. And also he knows that he will fight and he will have to fight. And in the mind of the player, fighting for a position is something that he has to understand, and he has also to it has to be something a bit more inside the mentality. He has to learn that kind of thing to be even better. And sometimes and this is also what Vincent understands, is that he's really good, but when he is doing perfect things, he got a lack of efficacy, or he got this little thing that makes another player going on the first 11 behind, and he gets behind, To be honest, I know that we don't have that kind of player really technical on the ball with Belgium. We don't have the Benson type of with the Belgium Red Devils. We don't have this type of player, and Anas is a bit like this. But when I spoke a bit with his entourage, I understand something really clear. there was no choice to do. So for him, it was Morocco, and it will be Morocco forever. It's a bit pity for me because I wanted to him in Belgium, but it's his choice, and I don't believe that there will less concurrence in Morocco than in Belgium. But he decided with his heart, and we have to respect that.
Sacha, you alluded to it earlier, so let's just quickly go into it. But you were saying about the way company approaches the market and how he does things. I think a lot of us are interested in how much sort of scouting he does personally. Is this his people doing it, or is it Burnley's recruitment and data people that are coming up with ideas? What's your understanding of how company goes about identifying his targets primarily?
That when I was speaking about university football, that's also one point really interesting to show. I never saw a trainer, that goes every time when he's not sure or he needs a confirmation on the pitch to see a player into a ground when he really needs to know if he can get him or not. So if he don't get 100% of certitude of what are the ability of the player, how he feels the ground, and he saw it, he will not do the deal. This is something important because there are a lot of players that are being linked to Burnley right now and also last year. But it's also because of the way of working of the whole staff of scouting and all the directors of Burnley. They are getting something like 60 players, and then they go by one by one by making offer. And so they turn back, and sometimes they show interest, but they didn't give news to the people. And people are waiting and say, okay, they are really interesting. They called me. They say they would make an offer, and then we will do it, and it's fine. And then 1 week, 2 weeks, and then another call from Burnley to say, okay, we do it. And then he makes an offer. And sometimes agents don't know about the fact that an offer player has been done. And so they have to need to get information from the current club of the named player to know how it's going on. Because they are really working like, okay, we do like this, and then we come back, and then we do it. And it's really American way of thinking, So they are going straight away to their aim, and then they are going back, reflection, then turning back, making offers, be really offensive, then turning back, reflection. It's really, 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 really strange because
it's unusual, that isn't it?
No, it's absolutely not usual. There is a lot of teams also in Italy. They have first priority, second priority, third priority, and they go ahead. And then they're working one by one on all the positions they need to do. No, Burnley is not working like this. They can make an offer for a goalkeeper. They can make an offer for a forward. Then they can go back to Aster Vranckx. Then they go to make the central defender or she. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really strange.
Yeah, that's really interesting because that kind of explains a little bit how, as fans and journalists watching it from the outside a little bit, we see all these links and rumours and we think, why do we want 5 goalkeepers? But then if they're working like that, they only really want 1 or maybe 2, but they're going to put in offers for 5 and then sit back, as you say, reflect. And I think it's also really encouraging to hear that company personally wants to verify before he does that deal, because there's a lot of clubs now where that doesn't happen, right? Where the director of football signs the player and presents him to the coach. So it's a very different. So company's completely in charge, yeah, as you can get the impression, yeah.
You don't know how much, but not how much that the people think. So that's want to say that okay, he's 100% involved. He makes the choice. He is inside everything, but he's listening to people. He's asking for things that he wants to, and he wants that people got back with the good answer, if you know what I mean. So he's really in touch with all the direction and the scouting staff. He's not someone to say, okay, today I will do a deal with an agent from Stellar, and then I will call my friend from CAA base, and then we will do something with the Belgian one. No, they are really, everything is really settled as a precise mode of function.
You mentioned obviously the next couple of weeks. I think I think we're all probably like that. I know, Chris, we get lots of text messages, and I'm sure other people do as well. And you definitely do, Sacha. I know you do. Kind of, people get. Is there anything close? Is there anything close? Kind of, who's going to be next? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be the keeper? Is it going to be that? It seems like this kind of scattergun approach, which is not meant to sound negative, means that at any one moment something could just happen. I mean, I think Vitinho was the one last year where we had no inkling whatsoever about Vitinho. Then all of a sudden, Vitinho's at the training ground. Foster was a bit of a longer run-in.
Yes.
I think Zarori and Benson, from a degree, kind of didn't come from anywhere until you basically said, Benson said goodbye to his teammates tonight. He'll join Burnley tomorrow, and that's the running. Is there anything, you mentioned kind of the next couple of weeks being busy. I guess at some point Vincent Kompany is going to have some time off. I know we're back in training. Do you kind of see this kind of next couple of weeks as a key period for some of these deals, which we've perhaps been, you talked about kind of touching and things. It feels almost like the flirting is going to stop at some point, and the actual, getting the taxi ride home is going to start at some point, to use a kind of, a phrase we might use over here. Do you think the next 2 weeks
Hollowayism?
Hollowayism, yeah, going to be key.
Definitely, for the list of the midfielder, they got Aster Vranckx, they got Sambi Lokonga, they got still Fabian Ruiz, and they have names that I don't have, and this is something 100% sure. So Trafford, I was surprised because it was not on the list I got. So it's something like they are making things sometimes, and it's really there are maybe 2 or 3 to know: Alan Pace, Vincent Kompany, the agent involved, and then they do the deal. But they worked on it for maybe for hours, for days. I don't know of it, But this is also one of the secrets of Vince, is that he is really someone who is not giving a lot of things to journalists or to people. And he loves to make surprise. So there are really tracks and targets. When I saw the situation, I saw the news, and I was by myself surprised of the news going on Twitter or on the newspaper, because it was not on what all was working on. You understand? It was not on the plan. But he did it. This is why this guy is really terrific, because he is also really mysterious.
Sacha, I know you've got lots of work to do. You've got stories to break and things to be getting on with, so we'll not keep you forever here. But one thing I did want to ask, just a more general question, really. With so many players from the Belgian league coming from Burnley, and with Kompany being the coach, is there a lot of interest and sort of pride even in Belgium in what's happening? Are Belgian football fans really following Burnley and looking forward to seeing them in the Premier League this year?
Belgium is a pride country. So they are really, really proud of what's happening for Vincent. And everyone in Belgium is taking a bit into a special attention what's going on into Burnley. And that's also why I have a personal affection to Burnley, because it's this little family club, and inside in Belgium we have this kind of mentality. It's really important to get a sort of family way of thinking, really close to people, and it's not the biggest club that makes everyone dream, but you in Belgium, fact is that Vince came into a club when you feel you can be home, when you are inside of it. And in Belgium, this is a feeling that is really, really needed to be attached by a club. And that's why also everyone is looking for what will do for sure Vincent Kompany. But I can assure you that in Belgium, if they have to make a choice for one match or another, they will choose, of course, to see Burnley if there is maybe a Belgian player, but it's not a big match, but there is Vincent Kompany that is training, everyone will see the match of Burnley, of course.
Yeah, just on Kompany, I think just kind of a final question from me, really. I think everybody was kind of surprised that he was willing to take on this project. I think we were even more surprised that he apparently told Spurs he wasn't even interested in being part of their process, and it would have been easy for him to kind of ride the crest of the wave with a championship. He signed that new deal, and I get the real impression that he's somebody who is, a bit like Guardiola, a bit like, the big managers, somebody who's a man of his word, and that actually, for now, unless the City job comes along, he's 100% committed to seeing out that contract, unless a very, very, very tiny handful of jobs come up, and City's probably amongst them jobs. Do you get that impression as well, that kind of the control that he has, the fact that it's his project, in a similar way to Dyche had such longevity because it was his project and he had control? Do you think that, it's a smart move by Alan Pace by giving Vincent control over the project? And do you see him being at Burnley relatively, long term, or however long term can be in football?
Yes, but of course it's about culture, In Belgium, people were betraying him, were saying a lot of things on him because he didn't get the result he needed in Anderlecht. Of course, in Anderlecht he made some mistakes, and I know he will also say it. If you ask to Vincent if he did make mistakes into his first adventure as a trainer, he would say to you, okay, definitely I made some errors. I was not committed 100% because I was a part of the club, committed inside as an actionary. I was a player once, and then I left the player. Then I start for doing trainer, but we needed to do it with an experienced ex-trainer of the club who did the historical things with Anderlecht. But okay, let's do it and try to make results. And also there is all the pressure of the name Vincent Kompany. When he came to Burnley with championship to say, okay, here is your home. We love you in England. We will love you that you fail or that you do good things. We will love you in either way. And that gives to him, and he needs it. He has a lot of confidence on himself, but he needs it. He say, okay, then I'm free to do what I want, and I will be not judged if there is one match where I don't I don't win. And this was really concrete, and that's also why himself is developing really well inside Burnley, because all the people is seeing him like like the one. He's the chosen. He's really the chosen, and he felt like he's the chosen. And this is how he is the best, when there is no consternation. Everything is clear. The budget is done. And that's also why when he did contact with Tottenham, because people thought it was not true, but it was true. And it was not through him. It was through intermediaries and English agents. There were contacts because Daniel Levy really loved the work he did. He was not able and really not fascinated by the fact to go into Tottenham. And because, of course, there was a lot of more money than into Burnley. That I think it's obvious for everyone. But he said, no, I cannot be at that position that I have at Burnley on another level. I have to bring story. I have to get and make history with Burnley, to then going into another project and evolve. And I will be not surprised if Vincent stays at least 2 seasons or maybe 3 again to Burnley for a signing then to be the successor of the legacy of Guardiola in 2025, where he contracts ends, when he contracts ends, sorry. So that's a bit how I see Vincent, but the fact he is relaxed and he will not be judged at the only mistake he will be doing. This is something that gives him wings, my friend, it's awesome.
It really is awesome. And it's been awesome, this half an hour that we've had here talking, Sacha. It really has. It's been absolutely fascinating for us, and I'm sure for the listeners as well. We really appreciate your time. We hope you'll come back on maybe later in the window when we've got some deals that have happened or are about to happen, and we can go back over some of these players as well, because a lot of the time we're going on YouTube and looking at those notorious highlight clips, and we're trying to work out who these players are and how good they're going to be. So far, most of them have been pretty good, and your information has always been pretty good. So thank you very much indeed, Sacha, and we really appreciate it. Cheers.
Thank you very much, guys, and have a good show. And it was a big pleasure for me too. And for the invitation, no worries. If you ask me, I'm always there. You know, Burnley's family, so no worries.
Nice one. Woody, what were your impressions of that? I found that fascinating, a lot of that.
Definitely. I thought it was interesting, that last piece where he was talking about, Vincent's project, that kind of 2 to 3 year window that we kind of all anticipate that's probably there. Now, he's obviously not necessarily confirming that, but he's kind of putting that timeline to that, and that makes sense.
It does, yeah. Greavesy, what struck you about that half hour there?
I think for me, I'm quite fascinated by the kind of way we work in the transfer market. And, I think we keep getting told, look, these, and he kind of alluded to it, did Vincent himself, look, there'll be dozens of players in each position that we'll look at. And just hearing Sacha talk with, such kind of enthusiasm for the project, you know what I mean? I mean, this is somebody who probably would have struggled to find Burnley on a map. With no disrespect to him, but most people struggle to find Burnley on a map prior to Vincent coming in. But the kind of enthusiasm that, he gets from the entourage of some of these players. I mean, Aster Vranckx, he said, he still wants Premier League. If he can play for a team managed by Vincent Kompany in the Premier League and Burnley can make it happen, he will sign. Same with Tresor, you know what I mean? It's this excitement levels for me is just, the pulling power of Vincent is just phenomenal, and getting it confirmed by Sacha. And of course, the fact that Benson to AC Milan is absolute bobbins.
Yeah.
It's also, we were kind of, well, you were slightly panicked earlier on the WhatsApp group, and me and Chris and Woody were trying to calm you down. I'm hoping you're a bit calmer now, because Sacha's spoken.
He has spoken, and that has put me at ease. I mean, to be fair, I spent several years covering matches at the San Siro, and if I was a footballer, if I was given a chance to play in that red and black striped shirt at San Siro. But the fact that it's not true puts us completely at ease. It's not a question of whether Manuel wants to swap Turf Moor for San Siro. Chris, what do you take away from that discussion?
I'm just, I just find it fascinating. I'll go back to sort of when, the first Belgian players that obviously Burnley had Vossen and Defoe. But if you remember the Vossen deal, I mean, I can remember going out meeting my mates for a few drinks on a Friday night, and I was getting messages from a journalist this Vossen thing's happening. But if you remember, it was so short-lived. But when he went back to Belgium, he was met at the airport by the Belgian media, and they did like an interview with him there and then. And it's just the Belgian media seem to be so much closer with their footballers than this country. I think in this country now you find they're probably a bit standoffish now, and you don't have that relationship with players that we necessarily used to, even at Burnley to an extent. But I just like to say, talking about the insight and into the thoughts of what the family wants, what the player wants, and we would never, necessarily get that sort of that level of insight in this country. No,
that's absolutely true. You see that when you cover like tournaments like the Euros and the World Cup, and you go to somewhere like Belgium or even France, to be honest, which is a huge team. But you'll see journalists like shaking hands and chatting with the players and saying, "Oh, how's your brother doing?" and all that kind of stuff. And you're just not going to see like one of the London boys going up to Harry Kane and saying like, oh, is the dog feeling any better today, Ari, or whatever. It just doesn't happen. Those relationships, it's gone, unfortunately. It did. I did have a little bit of a taste of that myself in that time in Italy, where you could go to AC Milan's training ground and actually have an espresso with Gattuso or whatever and just have a chat. They were golden days, and they've gone in Italy now as well, unfortunately, from what I hear. But clearly, those kind of relationship is why Sacha is able to get that information, right, Greavesy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are different times. I remember as a kid, I went to Gawthorpe School. I don't like to talk about it, but we used to go to the training ground. I remember me and my mates buying snide River Plate shirts out the back of Steve Thompson's car. Steve Thompson, the midfielder, ex-Leicester. And it would just, I mean, it was one of them things where, I mean, Chris, you'll have worked for the Burnley Express. I'm not trying to give your age away, but as I was kind of in my last year, you were still a young pup reporter. But you'll have known that, won't you, under kind of, those managers we had towards the end of the 90s, and even Stan to a certain extent for all his kind of, gruff behaviour in front of the press. You kind of had a bit more of a relationship. And the modern way, certainly in this country, is, barriers are up. We don't get any of that. But the access Sacha has, wow. I mean, it's just, he spoke to Vranckx entourage about the Celta move. So, the Spanish press are saying advanced talks. He's come on here today and said, not advanced talks. Everyone's doing the dance. They're doing a bit of a flirt, but nothing's happening. It's just, Chris, can you ever see a time where we, as members of the press, regain that control? And is it the clubs who are stopping that? Or is it just players in this country have been tabloid fodder for so long that we struggle to kind of build them relationships?
I don't know whether it's sort of a bit of both, really. You obviously in this country, to go getting too deep, you've had like Leveson and phone tapping and things like that. People accessing celebrities' messages, and you would have a suspicion of the media. But at the same time, you've seen this growth of football clubs, probably football clubs' websites. What turn of the millennium, we're talking, really getting established, and then sort of the onset of social media that's kicked things up a notch as well. And they obviously want their own material, and they want that. The running jokes. It's football clubs putting out exclusive interviews with their own staff. It's it's a comedy one, but they were always going to end up being competition with the media, and by the same token, you're seeing like the elements of the media, and particularly the local media, sort of withering away a lot. And it's probably been a combination of everything.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the biggest takeaway from all of that was knowing that when somebody somewhere in Europe reports that we've made an offer for a player, it doesn't mean we're actually necessarily trying to sign him, because we're making offers on so many levels to so many different players, then going back to the office, sitting down and saying, right, we've put in an offer for these 3 different left backs, for example. Which one are we going back to? Right, we'll go back to that guy. So it's possible that we have made offers for 20 players and that the rumours are all right, but they were only going to sign a handful of those players. So I thought that was really interesting to get that insight into Burnley's strategy. I mean, one signing that we know is nearly complete is that of England under-21 goalkeeper James Trafford. He'll be in action in the Euro under-21 final against Spain on Saturday, and then all being well, heading to East Lancashire to complete his move, if reports are accurate. Big money move by all accounts. He's a product of Manchester City's academy. He's spent the last 2 seasons on loan in League One, firstly with Accrington Stanley and then Bolton Wanderers. And earlier, Andrew sat down with Dan Barnes of the Bolton News to talk about what kind of player Burnley would be signing.
So, Dan, thanks for joining us. You obviously saw a lot of James Trafford last season. What kind of goalkeeper are Burnley getting for their 15 million plus add-ons?
I think, obviously, he's a goalkeeper with a huge potential, a really high ceiling. When he came to Bolton, he was really, he really had a point to prove. Nobody knew what to expect from him, to be honest. He'd had a tough time at Accrington, and that was his first taste of men's football, really. But he came into Bolton and it just clicked straight away, to be honest with you. He's had 18 months there in total, and he couldn't have imagined it going any better, to be honest. Really, really impressive last season. A really big number of clean sheets. I think, is it 22 off the top of my head? And yeah, he's a very very well-rounded goalkeeper, very modern as well. I think one area I would have previously had a little bit of a concern with was maybe commanding his area, but he's come on leaps and bounds with that over the past 12 months, really. And as obviously has been discussed a lot, it's important for Burnley to have a goalkeeper who can play out from the back, and he can definitely do that. It's a big part of our Bolton player. So yeah, I think he's a very exciting talent. No doubt in my mind whatsoever that if this deal goes through, that he'll be a fantastic signing for Burnley in the long term. But obviously, it is a massive step up from League One, and no one, quite knows what to expect really in that short term.
Yeah, I was going to mention that step up because it is, you think the step up from League One to Championship's big. You're skipping the Championship completely, and I think it showed. I mean, Leicester, I think, were after him. Sheffield United were after him, and I think one of Pep's assistants is now at Leicester. So there's clearly something that everybody at City, anybody who's ever been and watching him at City has clearly seen in him. It looks like he's going to go in straight for the number one. I mean, there's rumours that Muric is on his way to Turkey. Like you say, you guess it couldn't have gone any better at Bolton. Was there anything that kind of suggests from last season, and like you say, brilliant season, won the FA Football League trophy, Bolton got to the playoffs, etc., that, Premier League clubs might come sniffing as a number one?
I think, from a pretty early stage, Bolton knew that, it was his last season there. Yeah. And credit to him, he's an ambitious lad, and he said it himself. He's got really high ambitions in the game. He wants to go. I think recently he was telling the national press eventually, he wants to be in the Champions League. He wants to be playing for England. So he's a really ambitious lad. But it doesn't come from a place of arrogance. It's just, he's a very down to earth lad with a lot of belief and a lot of confidence in his ability. But yeah, it's you see these links that you've mentioned, and I think personally I was probably expecting him to have a season on loan at a pretty, maybe a top 10 Championship club. But I mean, credit to him, he's obviously become number one in the England under-21 setup now as well, which is obviously something that the Premier League clubs are keeping a very close eye on, and he's been unbelievable in the ongoing Euro tournament. I think at the time of recording, he's yet to concede a goal and some brilliant saves. So yeah, it does just seem to be that perfect storm really, that he's continued to get better and better, been in superb form really for the end of the season, and then obviously, like I say, carried that into the internationals. So yeah, I think it is definitely, in my opinion, a shock to see such a big move, sort of like in the here and now. I thought definitely that would be on the cards, but maybe in another 12 months or so. But yeah, I think it's a credit to what he's been doing. Obviously, at 20 years of age, what he's done is so impressive, and yeah, he was obviously going to take notice of the clubs in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Euros, like you say, as we're recording this. I think England played tonight because we're recording this on Tuesday. But 4 clean sheets from 4 matches. It didn't have much to do against Germany, but by all accounts was superb with some great saves against Portugal. I've spent most of today just watching kind of highlights reels of him at Bolton, and he's a very athletic keeper, isn't he? I mean, he gets to balls which you just don't expect him to get to. I mean, most of them are kind of tips around the post or parried kind of out of danger. Who would you kind of, and this might be kind of a really difficult question, but a lot of people have kind of talked about Ramsdale perhaps and things like that. Is there anyone you would kind of compare him to in terms of his goalkeeping style? I know it's a bit different for a goalkeeper compared to kind of a striker or a midfielder. They're often harder to kind of categorise. But is there anybody who you think he kind of emulates in that respect?
Yeah, I think definitely he fits into that kind of modern bracket of, as you mentioned, the likes of Ramsdale and Pickford, in that he's very athletic. And like you said, he does make those saves that you think, how has he managed to get to that? Yeah. I think also, I mentioned that he's good with his feet, and it is a very important part of the modern game. We all know that. the one thing I would maybe temper expectations with a little bit is that, you know, having seen Muric quite a few times last season, those games where he's, you know, just playing those unbelievable 40-odd passes. I'm not sure James is at that level yet with his feet. I mean, in truth, I don't think many keepers are in English football without looking at the top keepers. But yeah, James is a very exciting talent, and yeah, I think he definitely fits into that kind of new school that Vincent Kompany will be looking for. So you can see why he will be a fan of his, and obviously see him in that kind of long-term project at Burnley.
Yeah. Are you a little bit surprised? And I know obviously you spent most last season watching Bolton, but are you a bit surprised that Kompany clearly felt that the goalkeeping department, despite Muric keeping a ridiculous amount of clean sheets, despite, as you mentioned, some of the ridiculous footwork. I mean, I think he nutmegged the player towards the end of the season. Are you a little bit surprised that Kompany's decided that for the Premier League he needs to refresh that department?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the occasions I saw Muric last season, I think he was obviously had a bit of a shaky start, didn't he? But I thought he was very impressive personally. As I mentioned, his distribution was just second to none, wasn't it? And he seemed to be really growing, yeah, as a shot stopper, as a general kind of a modern goalkeeper. Really, I guess maybe that commanding of the box would be a potential weak point. But yeah, I think when you look at managers like Vincent Kompany, as a player clearly used to being completely ruthless in that pursuit of as many trophies as possible. And it looks like that's the approach that he's taken into the Premier League, doesn't it?
Well, it's an interesting one, isn't it, James Trafford? I think a lot of us were surprised when we saw the reports of how much this deal was worth more than anything. We knew we'd been linked with Trafford. We knew we were after another goalkeeper. We'd seen the Verbruggen deal, slip away, it seemed. But to a deal worth 19 million with all the add-ons and everything added together. I mean, the mind does boggle at that one. Greavesy, what was your reaction to that news, and what did you take out of your conversation with Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dan's very clear that he felt the ceiling was very, very high. So again, it's one of those, the 19 million is with add-ons, as we've said, and the chances are it will be much nearer to the 15 million that we're supposedly kind of guaranteeing. But I think even within that, there's some kind of conditions, and obviously that doesn't all get paid at once. But I when you look at the fact that I think as it stands, he will become the 17th most expensive keeper of all time at 19 million quid all told, having never played above League One level.
Astonishing.
Which is astonishing. But from what Dan was saying there, very modern goalkeeper. We know that Muric had a start, shall we say, but I think we were all kind of fairly wholesome in our praise at the very first episode about how much of an integral part Muric had become just for his kind of ball skills, really. Didn't have very much to do with his hands, but as Dan said in that interview, kind of, James Trafford, he's somebody who he has seen pretty much week in, week out, becoming this, this goalkeeper that he feels has the potential to step up and be a number one at a big club. Whether we expected it to be a jump straight from League One to the Premier League, will remain to be seen. Whether Arrow Muric moves on remains to be seen. But certainly, I mean, Vincent Kompany must have some confidence in him as a footballer and in his ability to fit into the Vincent Kompany system to authorise such a huge fee for somebody who's not played above League One. But I'm excited. Speaking to Dan, just felt excited by the potential of Trafford coming in and making that number one shirt his own.
Woody, what? I mean, I feel a bit sorry for Muric if he is on his way out, or I feel sorry for him for a while as well if he starts the season as number two. I mean, how do you feel about this?
I mean, he was very nearly my player of the year Muric for the fact that nearly everything went through him, besides obviously Cullen. The next most important ball player in the team was Muric.
Yeah.
But I think we can probably safely say we're not going to have that kind of pressure in the final third in the Premiership. He's not going to have that kind of time on the ball. And the idea of him becoming a keeper is going to be absolutely vital. And if you look at Trafford, he's an exceptional shot stopper. He's extremely agile. You know, whether it's League One or wherever else, 26 clean sheets, is it, at Bolton, with 8 on the bounce at home? That's a ridiculous stat, especially for a keeper. And to see how everybody speaks so highly of him. Carsley, the under-21 manager, has said how impressive he is around the squad, how the rest of the team looks up to him. He seems an extremely professional and mature guy, you know, when he's interviewed. And yes, as Andrew said, I think it's a very exciting transfer, and I do feel sorry for Muric, and I wouldn't like to see him go, but, you know, in Vincent, we obviously trust.
Yeah, I must admit, Muric doesn't fall into that category of player for me who would happily sort of say, well, you know, a new keeper's come in, so I'm going to graft away as number 2 and bide me time, and who knows what can happen in football. Maybe I get my... You know, he's quite a temperamental character, I think, isn't he, by all accounts? And he must be. We saw him deleting content, Burnley content, from his Instagram, and then it reappeared. I mean, Chris, what is Muric on his way with this? Do you think?
You'd have to suggest you ain't spending, you know, sort of setting aside that money over time, you know, with add-ons, etc., for him not to be the number 1 goalkeeper, James Trafford. So. I'm like yourselves. I don't see Aaron Muric accepting being second choice at Burnley. You know, he might have done it back at Manchester City, but certainly not. Certainly, again, the speculation seems to be Turkey and Fenerbahce, which, you know, I think as we've discussed, I don't, you know, it's not a particularly money-laden league, and you wonder whether Burnley get much profit on their outlay last summer, but. I just think it's a shame. It's not one of the areas you'd have thought, oh, I think Burnley need to really, you know, upgrade in that area. You go back to, you know, that's, as Woody said, you know, how everything came through him, you know, the starting the moves and having the nerves, having the balls to you know, maintain possession in situations. But the little the nutmeg in the final game against Cardiff just encapsulated everything. Just fantastic. But it'd be a shame, but you know, time moves on, doesn't it? And if Vinny thinks he's the man, Trafford's the man, we've got to trust him.
Yeah, I must admit, I was a Muric skeptic at the start of the season, and while I was convinced by him and could see that he clearly improved a lot really quickly, I think there's still a little bit of me thinking, you know, you think back to how many shots Nick Pope had to save. You know, when we had games where we ground out a draw and Nick Pope would make 6 or 7 world-class saves to keep us in a game. And I'm not sure that Muric had that level of shot-stopping ability in him. So maybe this is very ruthless from Vincent Kompany, much as we all like Muric. That's been a really fascinating episode, hasn't it, guys? I've really enjoyed that one. Thanks, everyone, for joining us again. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Sacha as much as we did, and the rest of the crew here with all our thoughts on the latest on transfers in and out of Turf Moor. We'll be back soon with more. And in the meantime, please, if you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe and review on whatever platform you use. Follow us at Twitter at BHole Podcast, and send us your thoughts, feedback, positive or negative, constructive or otherwise. All are welcome. And we'll speak to you soon. Cheers.